Friday. We file on Friday and she won't be able to stop it." That was my son's voice. Daniel's voice. Clear as church bells on a winter morning. I was curled like a foolish cat in the back seat of his SUV. An old woman with a ribbon in her pocket and a dumb plan in her heart. "Hide in the car," I told myself. "Pop out when he opens the door. Say surprise, and make him laugh like he did when he was 5. That was the plan. "You have the forms?" he asked. "Power of attorney, temporary guardianship, and the medical directive," a second voice replied. A woman. Calm. Efficient. My daughter-in-law, Mara. Her perfume reached me before the words did. Something citrusy that used to mean Sunday dinners and soft hugs, but suddenly smelled like a warning. Papers hissed as she smoothed them on the passenger seat. A pen clicked. 2 clicks. 3. She always clicked pens when she was nervous. "We need the signature," Mara whispered. "She'll sign. She's confused half the time anyway." Daniel laughed, the soft, cruel kind he never learned from me. "And if she doesn't, we'll have it. Friday. $25,000 in 2 weeks. We're not missing this window." The world tilted. I wanted to sit up and say, "What window?" But the words crawled back behind my tongue like scared mice. In the wedge of space between the front seats, I saw it. The top of an envelope stamped in red. Insurance. Life benefit inquiry, and beneath a clear window, claimant. Daniel Hart. My name wasn't there. Not Evelyn, not Mom. Just claimant and my son's shaky signature next to a box labeled Beneficiary Review. Dosage stays the same, Mara murmured, rustling a pharmacist's bag. 2 with tea. Dr. Patel wrote it. Nobody will question a sleepy spell or a fall. 2 with tea. 2 with tea. Don't get sentimental, Daniel said. She had her life. We're drowning. The tax bill is due. The credit people are calling. You want Waverly Care to hold that room forever? They said Friday. 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 The ribbon in my pocket, meant to be tied to the handle of his coffee mug as a silly birthday surprise, cut my skin as I clenched it. I thought of the cake cooling on my counter. I thought of how, last week, he'd called me scatterbrained when I asked why there were new locks on the shed. "You're sure about the tea?" he asked. "I'm sure," she said. And then, as if they'd rehearsed it too, they both said together, "Friday." I did not say surprise. I did not laugh. I did not breathe. I began to listen like a woman who had just met her son for the first time. I am Evelyn Hart, 71 years old, in a town that keeps time with porch lights and church bells. Mapleton has 1 main street, 3 stoplights, and an ice cream place that still sells single scoops for $2 on Tuesdays. I have lived here since 1978, the year I married a tall mechanic named Arthur Hart, who taught me how to check oil and love quietly. Our first apartment was above Miller's Pharmacy, $700 a month in 1989, which felt like robbery then, and a miracle now. Arthur would carry groceries up 2 flights of stairs, and I'd make tuna with too much mayo, and we'd feed our baby boy in a yellow high chair from the Goodwill. Hold him like a football, Evie, not like a glass swan. Arthur teased the first time I tried to bathe Daniel, and he wiggled like a trout. Daniel had cheeks like apples and a cry that sounded like determination. I worked where people needed hands. A diner, a school cafeteria, the library on Maple. I washed dishes until my fingers lost their moons and reappeared again. I stacked books, sorted picture day envelopes, stitched buttons for older men who never remembered to say thank you. It didn't matter. I had 2 children, Daniel and Rose, and every dollar went somewhere important. Shoes in October, inhalers in March, prom tickets in May. When Arthur's back went bad in 1997, I added a second job at night cleaning offices, $12 an hour. Later, $15 later, we only need part-time. We kept the house anyway. A small ranch with siding that needed paint and a yard that grew dandelions like generous cousins. "We'll refinance and be fine," Arthur said in 2004. And that's how we borrowed $40,000 at a rate that someone told us was flexible, which I learned meant rising. When he died in 2011, the bank sent a sympathy card with a pamphlet about budgeting. My daughter Rose married and moved 2 states over. My son Daniel stayed. "I'll take care of you, Ma," he promised at the funeral, his mouth a brave line. He pressed his forehead to mine like he was still a boy with a fever. "You'll never be alone." For a long time he kept his word. There were Sunday suppers. There was help with the gutters. There were cars traded and baseball games. And the day he brought home Mara, with eyes like lake water, and a laugh that filled our small living room with a noise that said, "We are safe." They married in our church with the stained glass windows that bathe everything in blue. We danced on the lawn. I made $5,000 in casseroles that summer doing catering for neighbors. I paid down the $6,800 we still owed on the house from Arthur's bills. And then, slowly, the weather changed. Not all at once, like November that knocks you softly for weeks before it snowballs. Daniel's hours were cut at the garage. "It's nothing," he said. "I'm pivoting." There was a delivery job, then a nap, then a friend who had a sure thing in sports betting. Mara started talking about short-term cash and long-term upside. I don't gamble, not with money or hearts, but I watched Daniel's hands start to shake over coffee, and I saw envelopes arrive that were not friendly. "Past due, final notice, pay immediately. Do you need help?" I asked one afternoon. "I have some savings from the library." It was not much, $3,200, tucked in a coffee can behind flour in the pantry. "Ma, no, don't be ridiculous," he said, kissing my cheek. "We've got it. You just relax and enjoy your soaps." I tried to relax. I baked bread that nobody ate. I counted the pills in my new prescription, because sometimes the bottle felt lighter than the label said. I found my wedding ring in a different jewelry box than the one I had placed it in. I told myself stories to cover the cracks. He is tired. He is worried. He is proud. He is still my boy. "Mom, you keep losing track of things," Daniel said in April when I asked about the second mortgage I never remembered signing. "You're mixing up dates. You told me to take care of the house. I'm taking care of it." "I don't remember," I said. "You never remember," he replied. "Old, confused, scatterbrained." The words walked into our kitchen and sat down like family. I laughed them off. I made a pot roast. I told myself it was grief or spring allergies, or the switch from brand name to generic that the insurance forced on me to save $20. When the property tax bill came, $4,080, due June 15th, Daniel told me not to stress. He'd called someone. When the water bill doubled, he said, "Leaks, I'll fix it." When I asked about my insurance policy, the one Arthur set up in 1999 with $50,000 face value, for burial and the kids, Daniel smiled tightly and said, "We're reorganizing. This stuff is complicated, Ma. Don't you worry your head." Rose called on Sundays. "Mom, you okay?" she'd ask, voice tinny from 2 states over. "Daniel says you're getting forgetful. He says you left the stove on." "Did he?" I said, stirring cold soup with a wooden spoon, staring at a stove I had not used that day. "Well, maybe I did. Maybe I did. I planted petunias around Arthur's stone at St. Bridget's Cemetery on his birthday. I told him I was fine. I told him the kids loved me. I told him I was safe. I was not safe. I just didn't know it yet. The first red flag was a whisper the walls shouldn't have heard. If she doesn't sign, we'll sign for her." Mara's voice, thin and sharp as a knitting needle, drifted through my bedroom vent late one night. "You said Alvarez doesn't come out after 8. We'll do it then." "Stop worrying," Daniel yawned. "She'll think she did it. She always thinks she did it." I lay on my back and followed a crack in the ceiling with my eyes and thought, am I paranoid? I pushed the thought away because it hurt. The next morning, I found my pill organizer rearranged. Friday and Tuesday's slot, Sunday and Monday's. I told myself I'd done it. I told myself I was tired. Mom, you missed your dosage yesterday. Daniel scolded. I had to fix it. You can't keep track. We should hire help. I don't need help, I said. I need you to stop moving things. Nobody's moving anything, he said, opening cupboards as if to prove that everything was exactly where it should be. Then papers began to go missing the way socks do in a wash. Just one, then another. The deed to the house, the title to my sedan, the voicemail from the bank manager I liked, telling me to call her. When I asked, Daniel laughed. Mom, you really should write things down. We talked about this. I handled it. Handled what? Everything, he said. I started writing everything down. Dates, times, snatches of phrases like fish on a dock, slippery, still flashing life. Friday, $25,000, Waverly Care, directive. I wrote with a pencil that left grooves I could feel in the paper, even if the words were rubbed away. I folded the paper into my bra. I began to carry my life close to my heart like contraband. She's getting worse, Mara confided one afternoon to a woman from church, as I stood in the kitchen pretending to rinse lettuce. It's heartbreaking. She keeps misplacing things. At least she has you, dear, the woman clucked. So many don't. They were kind in public, my son and his wife. They brought me tea in a pretty cup with blue flowers. They hugged me at Food Lion so the cashier would see. They spoke in soft voices, slow and careful, as if I had become a foreigner who barely knew their language. You okay, Evie? Mr. Alvarez asked across our shared fence one evening. He is a retired postal inspector who knows how to notice things other people miss. You look like someone stole your groceries. Just tired, I lied. He nodded toward my trash bin. Saw a lot of pharmacy bags in there this week. Everything square? I get the generics now, I said, and my voice shook so hard I had to put my hands in my pockets to hide it. The second red flag was a bill from a clinic I had never visited. Mapleton Neurology. Cognitive assessment. $350. When I called, a woman said cheerfully, Oh, Mrs. Hart, we have you down as seen by Dr. Patel for memory evaluation. I've never met Dr. Patel, I said. Well, your son brought you in? She replied. No, he didn't. A pause. Fingers on a keyboard. Maybe it's a clerical error. We'll check. I hung up and stood in my quiet kitchen and listened to the refrigerator hum like a faraway engine. My hands tingled. My mouth tasted like pennies. I pressed my palms to the table and said aloud, to no one, Am I crazy? The third red flag was a notice from Waverly Care, the new memory wing that everyone in town says is lovely. Room deposit, $25,000 due in 2 weeks. There was a brochure with photographs of sunlit rooms and smiling older women in pastel sweaters arranged like flowers. Someone had circled a room in pen. Room 214, Friday. Where did this come from? I asked Daniel that night, waving the brochure like a white flag. Ma, we've talked about this, he said, not looking at me. It's time. You're not safe here alone. This is my house, I said. Your father dug the post holes with his hands. And I kept the roof from caving in for 10 years, he snapped. Then he softened like batter. I love you. You know that. But Rose agrees. This is best. Rose, when I pressed her on the phone, sounded tired. Mom, it might be good. Just temporary. He sent me the memo from Dr. Patel. What memo? About your episodes, she said gently. You keep calling me at night and forgetting. I do not keep calling at night. I do not forget. But what good is truth when your children have decided who you are? Daniel, I said the next day. Give me the memo. Give me the bills. Give me my papers. Mom, stop, he said, rubbing his face. You're paranoid. And that word landed like a hammer on glass. Paranoid. It cracked the air between us. 1,000 tiny lines spread. I began to test myself the way a woman checks a sore tooth with her tongue. I set my alarm for noon and hid a spoon under the couch cushion to see if I remembered where I put it. I did. I asked Rose about a recipe we cooked when she was 11 and crying over a girl who didn't like her shoes. June 2002. Chicken and dumplings. You said dumplings are just clouds that decided to land. She laughed and cried on the phone. You remember everything, she whispered. So why? Because remembering doesn't matter if the paper says you don't. Then the small lie turned into a bigger thing, with numbers and signatures. I found a photocopy of my driver's license in Daniel's desk, with a low-resolution signature that looked like mine on a day my hand fell asleep. Attached was a form for durable power of attorney. My name. His authority. The notary seal belonged to someone named K. Ward, whom I had never met. The date was 3 weeks ago. The witness signatures were 2 names I knew. Mara and L. Porter. The Porters live on the corner and love to sign things they do not understand. Why do you have this? I asked Daniel, holding the page as if it might bite. For emergencies, he said. You told me to get our ducks in a row. You don't remember? I do not, I said. Then that's precisely why we needed it. It should have ended me there. The shame, the doubt, the way he said we like a rope I should trust. But I am 71. I have lost a husband and kept a house on $15 an hour and driven to work in snow when other people stayed home, and I have learned the sound of my own soul. It was whispering now, not loud, but steady. You are not crazy. You are not worthless. You are not old in the way they need you to be old. And so I put a small black pen in a cup by the stove. It was not only a pen. Camera, microphone, USB. $39.99 online. Rose had bought it for me at Christmas, so you can record bird songs. I told myself I was being paranoid, crazy, sneaky. I clicked it on anyway. Bird song, indeed. The pen saw and heard more than any robin. It saw Mara open my pill organizer, pour pills into her palm, and with the economy of someone who has practiced, replace 2 from a dark, unlabeled bottle. The label wore glue scars, as if it had been peeled off. She did it while humming. She did it while my tea steeped. 2 with tea, she said to herself. A careful little rhyme. Like a woman learning a recipe she wanted to get exactly right. It heard Daniel in my kitchen on a Tuesday say, "If it's not Friday, it's never. We don't have the $25K, Mara. You want them to give that room to someone else?" I talked to Waverly. They'll hold it 2 weeks, she replied. But the consult's Friday. We need her out of here by then. If she gets dizzy in the garden and falls, if she bruises, Elder Protective will fast track. And the policy. Claimant box checked. Beneficiary updated. She signed last week after tea, remember? Silence, then laughter. Not the kind that belongs to children. I took the pen from its hiding place with fingers that wanted to drop it. I walked across the lawn to Mr. Alvarez. I need help, I said, and I need it quietly. He brought me into his kitchen, where the table was clean and the coffee was strong. Talk, Evie, he said. So I talked. He listened like he had all the time God ever made. Then he took the pen, plugged it into a little black device, and turned the volume up. We listened together to my son's voice break my heart in my own kitchen. We did not look at one another during the worst parts. We do this right, he said when it ended. No yelling. No blazing, paper process. You trust me? I do, I said. Though my insides were shaking, he made calls I did not hear. He brought over a woman in a gray blazer who introduced herself as Lila Coates, licensed private investigator. She had kind eyes and a notebook that clicked open like a pistol. Deadlines? She asked. Friday, I said. 2 weeks for the deposit. We'll move faster, she replied. Evie, I'm going to ask ugly questions. I let her. She found the notary, K. Ward, and asked if she remembered me. She did not. Did you notarize this? Lila asked. "Looks like my seal," Ward said carefully. "But I don't remember the signing, and the journal line is blank. Blank, where there should have been ink." Lila traced the insurance mail. The change of beneficiary form had been faxed from the garage where Daniel used to work. The fax header stamped it with a date and time. Monday, 3:12 p.m. The signature was mine, in the same shaky line as on the power of attorney. Lila brought in a handwriting analyst, an old friend who smelled like peppermint. "Not hers," he concluded. "Simulation attempt." We visited Dr. Patel's office. I wore my Sunday sweater and shook like a leaf. "Mrs. Hart," the receptionist said, "we have records of your visit." "Show me," I asked. The note read, "Patient presence with confusion. Son report stove left on twice. Patient consented to memory assessment. Under signature, there it was again. My name without my hand." The nurse looked embarrassed. "We saw her briefly in the hallway. Your son handled paperwork." "So you never spoke to me?" I said. "No," she admitted softly. "We stopped at Miller's Pharmacy, where I have bought Band-Aids and secrets for 40 years. Tom, the pharmacist, peered at the records. "Odd," he said. "These dosage changes came through from Dr. Patel's office. Twice the sedative, half the diuretic. It's not unusual with age, but we usually call." "You did not call?" I said. "The contact number on file is—" He squinted. "Mara's mobile. Some evidence tastes like metal. Some burns. This tasted like both. We photocopied everything. We logged every time and date. Mr. Alvarez taught me to write statements that sound like weather reports. Just the facts, just the numbers, just the hour the gust came, and took the trash can down the street. We took the USB from the pen and made 2 backups. One went under Arthur's old fishing tackle in the attic. The other went in a Ziploc in the freezer because Mr. Alvarez says almost nobody looks in freezers for truth." "Now the hospital," Lila said. "We're going to set a trap that looks like a mirror." "A trap?" I whispered. "They expect you to stumble," she said. "So we'll make sure you do. But we'll be the ones holding the net." I watered my front garden on Thursday afternoon, and when the sun hit the sidewalk just right, I sat down slowly, the way a woman sits when the world tilts. Mr. Alvarez was waiting under his maple with his phone already in his hand. He called 911 before Mara could. Possible fainting. Elder female conscious. They took me to Mapleton General. The lights were too bright. The nurse's hands were gentle. And then Mara arrived, breathless, grave, carrying a folder. "I'm her medical proxy," she told the nurse. "Here are the forms." The nurse frowned. "This is a copy. Do you have the original?" "I left it at home," Mara said sweetly. "This is an emergency." "We still need the patient's consent," the nurse replied, and looked at me. "Mrs. Hart?" I opened my mouth to say, "I do not consent." But Mara leaned close and whispered, smiling at the nurse, "Just sign, Evie. Don't make this hard." I turned to her and said very clearly, "Do not call me Evie." Then I said to the nurse, "I do not consent." The room breathed out with me. They marked my chart with a red no DNR on file band. Mara pressed her lips together so tight they turned white. "We'll see you tomorrow, Mom," Daniel said on the phone as they left, his voice soaked in sugar. "Rest. We love you." "Friday," I whispered to the ceiling. Friday. That night, Lila sat behind the nurse's station with a legal pad, not taking notes, just watching. Mr. Alvarez waited in the cafeteria with decaf and the patience of a man who has surveilled smugglers in airports. At 2:17 a.m., a man in a Waverly Care polo walked in and asked at the desk, "Is Mrs. Hart ready for discharge to facility?" "No order," the nurse said. "And we don't discharge at night." He left. Lila wrote the time down. We slept in 3-minute stretches. Morning Friday, 10:05 a.m. Mara arrived again, this time with a notary in scrubs. God help us. And 2 witnesses. The porters from the corner, bewitched by the smell of a signature. "We're just formalizing," she told the nurse. "Out," said the nurse, who had the face of a woman who once had 5 toddlers in a bathtub. "We don't notarize in rooms." I called Rose and told her everything. Finally, without the soft words. She was quiet a long time. Then she said very low, "I'm driving up." 'Twas 40 a.m. I watched Mara slip a small bottle out of her purse and palm it like a magician. She went to fix my tea. Lila watched. The nurse watched. The camera mounted in the corner watched. When Mara turned, Lila stepped forward, voice crisp. "Please don't add anything to the patient's drink." "It's honey," Mara said, cheeks pink. "Then you won't mind if we test it," Lila answered. The security officer came in when the nurse called. He took the cup and the bottle and the tiny sticky ring Mara had left on the tray. He wrote down 11:44. He put it all in a plastic bag. Mara's fingers shook. "You can't." "We can," the nurse said. 30 p.m. Daniel walked in with a bouquet of peonies and an expression like a dirty mirror. "Ma, how are you feeling?" he asked, making his voice warm. "Awake," I said. "We should get you home after the consult." "Waverly has a lovely room. Room 214? I asked. He blinked. He has never been good at hiding a flinch. "Yes." I looked at the peonies and thought of what my hands had done in this life. Wiped fevers, paid bills, buried a husband, mixed meatloaf for 8 boys from the baseball team when their bus broke down, sewn hems. The hands of a woman people think won't fight because she smiles. "Daniel," I said, soft. "Why?" He opened his mouth and lied. "Because I love you." 2 with tea, I said. He froze like glass when ice hits it. Crack, we did not fight there. Evidence before rage. That was Lila's rule. We smiled. We waited. We let them think the hour was still theirs. And then we went to the courthouse. The Mapleton County Courthouse smells like old paper and floor cleaner. The hearing room was small. Just a judge with hair like steel wool. A clerk, 2 pews, and a flag that didn't pick sides. Mara wore her good blouse. Daniel wore his wedding tie. Rose arrived with her hair in a messy knot and eyes that looked like mine when I am not in the mood to be lied to. "Case 25G1187, the clerk said. "Hart v. Hart. Petition for temporary guardianship." Judge Turner looked at me over his glasses. "Mrs. Hart, do you know why you're here?" "Because my son says I'm too confused to handle my life," I said. And my voice did not shake. "We're here to keep her safe, Your Honor," Daniel said, placing his hands on the table the way you do when you want to look steady. "She's been leaving the stove on, wandering. Missing doses. We have documentation," Mara added, sliding papers forward. The memo from Dr. Patel, the power of attorney, the insurance updates that had no business being there. "And do you have Mrs. Hart's consent for these actions?" the judge asked. "She signed," Daniel said. "Did she?" The judge mused. Lila stood. "With the court's permission, we have evidence that the signatures are forged. The notary did not witness, the physician did not examine, and the petitioners altered medication. The room did not breathe. Proceed," Judge Turner said. "We did not play all of it. We played enough. My kitchen Thursday morning, Mara's voice. 2 with tea, Daniel's voice. Friday, $25,000. The sound of paper, the clack of a pen, my own soft footsteps when I was trying not to exist. We submitted the pharmacy records with the dosage change, the fax header from the garage, the notary's blank journal, the hospital incident report with timestamps. Tom from the pharmacy testified by Zoom. Dr. Patel's nurse testified softly in person, cheeks pink with shame. Mr. Alvarez testified like a man who has written reports that sent criminals to prison and knows how to name a thing without flinching. "Mrs. Hart," the judge asked at last, "do you believe your son is acting in your best interest?" I turned to Daniel. I saw his eyes, which I once washed with a warm cloth when he had pink eye and wouldn't stop crying. I saw the boy who brought me a dandelion bouquet at 6, and the man who left a $25,000 hook in my life and called it love. "No, Your Honor," I said. "I believe my son is acting in his own interest." "Mom," Daniel breathed, reaching, the way drowning men reach for anything. "Please don't," I said. "Don't call me Mom like it's a spell." The judge's pen scratched. "Petition for temporary guardianship is denied. Based on the evidence, I am issuing a protective order restricting the petitioners from managing Mrs. Hart's finances or medication. I am referring this matter to the district attorney for investigation of fraud, forgery, and elder abuse." Mara made a sound like a tea kettle. Daniel's face fell in on itself. Rose took my hand, and we felt the old thread between us pull tight, not with pain, but with something like grace. The bailiff stepped closer to Daniel when he took a step toward me that looked like a plea or a threat. "Mr. Hart," the judge said, "you will sit down." He sat. Outside the courtroom, the hallway smelled like dust and victory. A detective approached and spoke to Lila, then to me. "We will need statements, ma'am," he said, "and we'll be visiting your house with a warrant for any relevant documents." "Take the freezer bag," I said, and for the first time that day, I smiled. It did not end neatly. Nothing worth surviving ends neatly. The paper takes time. The tests take time. The truth has to pass through hands that stamp and file and weigh. But the story passed through our town faster than paper. At Miller's, at St. Bridget's, at the ice cream shop. People lowered their voices and used words like awful and shame and I can't believe. And of course I can. A woman at the post office patted my shoulder and whispered, "God bless you, Evie." Another said, "Not your boy." I nodded because I did not know how to explain that he was. And he wasn't. 2 days later, the police came to the house with a warrant and carried away boxes, bank statements, a yellow legal pad with Friday written at the top, a list of debts that looked like a forest, $8,200 on a card, $2,400 to a man named Vic with a last name nobody wanted to say, $4,180 in back taxes. They found the unlabeled pill bottle in Mara's dresser, its glue tears bright in the light. They asked me to identify the pen. I did. They asked me how I'd gotten it. "My daughter gave it to me for birds," I said. "Turns out my kitchen sings too." They arrested Mara first on tampering and forgery. She cried like a siren. They arrested Daniel next. He did not cry. He looked at me with eyes that had made me someone's mother and said, "Mom, I was trying to fix it. I was drowning. Vic, you tried to fix it with me," I said. "You tried to fix it with me." He shook his head slowly, like a man underwater. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I am so sorry." "Me too," I said. And for a moment the hallway blurred with the weight of what if? What if he had come to me with the truth? What if we had sold the house together, and I had moved to Rose's, and not learned what I learned? But what if is a ghost that eats whole lives? I turned away. The district attorney moved faster than anyone expected for a county that usually saves its speed for summer parades. Mara took a deal and told the truth with her own mouth. The forgery, the pills, the beneficiary change at Daniel's insistence, the plan to present me to the hospital on Friday like a broken branch, the $25,000 deposit due in 2 weeks that hung over their heads like a storm. "We were desperate," she said. "We thought she'd be better off in a place. We thought," but she did not think the thought she needed to, which was, "Don't kill the woman who baked you pies." Daniel fought, then stopped. Maybe it was the recordings. Maybe it was Rose's testimony. Maybe it was his own memory, which will never be kind to him now. He pled to elder abuse, attempted fraud, forgery. The judge looked at him long and hard. "You do not get to call desperation love," she said. "Love is not the mask you put on to rob someone who trusts you. 18 months in county, 5 years probation, restitution, no contact without my consent. I signed a no trespass order for the house. The quiet after that was a new kind. Bruised, but mine. I made tea without counting. I planted late-season mums in the yard and told Arthur's stone at St. Bridget's the whole story. He's not lost to God, I said, though some parts of me wanted him to be lost to someone. He's lost to himself. Waverly Care called to apologize for any misunderstanding. I told them to take my name off every list. The pharmacy corrected my records. Dr. Patel saw me for the first time, truly, and wrote in my chart, cognition intact. Patient reports targeted family coercion. He looked me in the eye. I'm sorry, Mrs. Hart, he said. Mr. Alvarez built me a latch for the back door. Out of habit, he said, and brought me more tomatoes than one woman can eat. Lila came by on Thursdays with bagels and stories I will not repeat, because the world is both worse and better than you think. Rose and I spoke every night at 8 for a while, then every other night, then whenever the wind changed, and one of us needed to hear the other. Breathe. You'll forgive him eventually, she said one evening. Will forgive him because I do not want to carry him, like a rock in my chest, I said. But I will not forget, and I will not let him near the lockbox. That's the shape of love now. 2 months later, I sat on my front porch, the October air like a clean sheet. Children ran past in small boots. The maples held their fire in their leaves a little longer. I took a piece of paper from my pocket and smoothed it on my knee. It was not a memo. It was my list, not of evidence, but of truths. I am not worthless. I am not crazy. I am not just old. My dignity is mine. My first name written in my own hand, not forged by anyone. The house is mine too, for now. When the time comes to let it go, it will be because I chose to, with Rose, with coffee, with mums that need a new yard. Sometimes I picture the moment in the car again. The first one, the worst one, when I was folded into the shadows and the word Friday became a wolf. I wonder what would have happened if I had popped up with my ribbon and shouted, "Surprise!" Maybe they would have laughed and kissed my cheeks, and the tea that night would have tasted like honey and something else. Maybe nothing would have changed. Maybe I would be room 214 today, wearing a pastel sweater for a camera. But I didn't say surprise. I listened. I survived. I told. I proved. And in the proving, I found something I had almost forgotten. Old age is not weakness. It is a kind of strength that is quiet and stainless and patient as a winter morning. I have a new little family now, as funny and humble as God's leftovers. Mr. Alvarez with his tomatoes, Lila with her bagels, Tom from the pharmacy who brings me peppermints at church, Nurse Carla at the hospital who winks at me across the grocery aisle, Rose who learns how to forgive herself for not knowing what she couldn't. We sit on my porch some evenings and say nothing. When we do speak, we say small true things. That cloud looks like a sheep. The mums came in nice this year. You want another cookie? And sometimes after the sun runs away, and the porch light is the only braver thing, I whisper to the dark, just to hear the words in the air. I kept my dignity. I kept my name. I kept my life. If you've listened this far, if you've sat with me in my kitchen and my hospital room and my little courtroom and on this porch, I want to ask you something. What would you have done in my place? Would you have believed your own eyes over your son's voice? Would you have set a trap, recorded a teacup, told a judge the truth? Or would you have tied a ribbon on a mug and kept smiling until Friday? If you or someone you love is standing where I stood, listen. Write things down. Tell someone who will believe you. You are not worthless. You are not crazy. Please share your thoughts in the comments. Tell me your stories. And if this helped you, like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear a grandmother say, "The truth hurts, but lies kill the soul." And remember, true family is love and respect, not blood and signatures.